Welcome back to the show. You are on centralcoastradio.com, and of course Oz Comic Con was just on in Melbourne, and Lee and myself headed along to check out this year's convention. And Lee, let's kick it off. What was the highlights of this year's convention for you?
The actors always are something I love to go and listen to see what they have to say, not only about their acting, but sometimes they'll reveal some things about their personal life too. Of course, I was excited, as everyone knows from what I've said earlier, that I wanted to see Clive Standen from Vikings and a co-host, Lucy Martin. They were exceptional in their Q&A session, and I just really loved the things that they spoke about. So I guess with Clive, he spoke a lot about how interested he is in history and really researching the roles that he does. He knew a lot about Vikings and how to portray what they're really like. And I just really admired his work ethics. He really spoke about his commitment to roles, what he puts into his roles, and the same with Lucy Martin. And she actually spoke a little bit about how she's been in theatre and she's a dancer as well, and how she's used that in her roles as well. So they were my first two. What were yours?
I really enjoyed a lot of the speakers this year. I enjoyed, like you, Clive Standen and Lucy Martin. But I think one of the things I really loved this year was it went back to finding specials if you were looking around the stalls long enough. There was a lot of times this time when I wandered off to go and look at the stalls, and the post-COVID conventions I found, I don't know whether companies have been trying to make up for money that they lost during COVID, but there was never those show specials that were there that you quite often used to get before that. I think we'd only walked into the hall for 10 minutes on day one of Oz Comic Con this year, and you, myself, and Brock, our nephew who went with us, we'd found a stall doing $10 pop vinyls like pretty much straight away.
Yeah,
and
very dangerous for us. We came home with a lot.
I even ended up getting you one of the bigger pop vinyls of Hagrid and the pub in Harry Potter, and I said to the person on the stall, how much is that one? And she said, we're clearing it out at cost price. But the more I looked on across the weekend, the more bargains I found. Like I picked up some hard to find Fast and Furious model cars that I'd been after for ages, and they were well and truly under the price that they were on eBay. We finally found some stuff for Suzume, which is the anime that Lee and I loved at the start of this year. It's been really hard to find anything of that here in Australia. There seems to be a lot of stuff that's come out in Japan that hasn't made it to Australia, but we finally found some Suzume stuff as well. And I did the whole, I'll buy one and then I'll go home and have a look and see how much they are on eBay. I did that and found out that they were about $40 off what I could get them on eBay. So I went back the next day and bought two more. So yeah, I think I really liked that the stall holders there this time went back to having sales so that you could actually buy some stuff and save a little bit of money. Was there any other things that you really enjoyed this year?
Yeah, I would like watching in the kind of gaming area. The dancing, yeah. I don't know what the game was called, actually, that the people were
I think it was Dance
dancing
Revolution.
But it was just so much fun watching everyone have a great time. It certainly drew a crowd in, and I certainly said to you, let's find out what that is, because I would certainly play that at home if I had it.
Yeah.
But it just brought fun to the table, really. And always, as always, the cosplayers walking around, some of their costumes were just magnificent. I don't know if you're allowed to call them costumes, but just magnificent. Some of the the depth of what they've done to create those costumes, and to act out a role as they're walking around too. Like once they put that costume on, they really take on the persona of the character that they're playing. Yeah, and just magnificent. I loved it.
There was a really impressive cosplayer who turned up at Emily Swallow as Q&A dressed as the Armorer, which of course is who Emily Swallow plays in the Book of Boba Fett and also The Mandalorian. So that was pretty impressive. I like the fact that I didn't have to ask Emily the question I wanted to ask. I've been dying to ask a cast member, what is Grogu on set? Like, do they have anything there when they have to interact with Grogu, or is he just not there? And Emily actually answered that in someone else's question by saying that they actually do have a puppet there on set, and when they have to talk to Grogu, the puppeteers move him so that he's reacting to them talking, so they have something to react to. But I found hers really interesting. She talked a lot about what it's like working on The Mandalorian. Somebody asked the question about how difficult it is to move in their costumes and stuff like that, because of course at Supernova earlier this year we had an actor talking about being in The Mandalorian and how he fell off the stage once because he couldn't see out of his costume and stuff like that. So she talked a lot about how it's very difficult for them to sit down when they're wearing their costumes and everything like that. But she was really, really open with that kind of stuff. But I guess we'll talk more about that in the second part when we talk about what we liked about the Q&As. Was there anything that you felt could have been better for this year's Comic-Con?
Yeah, I don't know the reasoning behind how it's set out at the moment. I know in the past they've had a room for the exhibition, for all the shopping and maybe, the gaming is in there and things like that. But they've had a separate room for the Q&As, which is in a proper auditorium with proper sound, proper seating, and it just gives that real respect to the person speaking, or people speaking if it's a panel, that you can tune right into what they're saying. It's a comfortable atmosphere. With the setup at the moment in the big exhibition area where the little stages are in there with Q&As and cosplay and all sorts of different panels going on, it is so loud that is really distracting. And even in the very first Q&A on Saturday morning for the day, the MC of a panel and the actor himself both commented on it, and they were trying to get the sound person to turn the music down that was in the background, but it was out of their control because it was not part of their area that they were controlling. And so it was just really distracting and really felt a little disrespectful to the actors that were speaking. That's a personal preference for me. I understand that there could be all sorts of reasons behind the scenes, and I respect the people putting on, of course, Comic-Con, and understand there could be a million reasons why it's set up like that at the moment. But if there was any chance to change it back to a proper auditorium for Q&As, I would really recommend it.
Do you think it worked better when Crunchyroll put the kind of soundproof curtains around the stages? Remember when we were at Crunchyroll last year, they had the people talking in the auditorium, but they had soundproof curtains around.
Yeah, the curtains really made a huge difference. And yeah, I think that something is needed where each section is really kind of cornered off from other areas, so that you can't see things going on around you and you can't hear everything going on around you, and you can really tune into the person talking, because they were at times really distracted and could see that they were really struggling to hear what the questions were, and they were really having to project their voice, probably at a higher level than what was comfortable for them.
Definitely. Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break at the moment on centralcoastradio.com, and we'll be back in a moment, and we'll take a look at what we learnt during the Q&As at this year's Oz Comic Con.